You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, part of the 90 Min Football Network. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and this is our members edition of the podcast, where once a week we get some of our channel members onto the platform to have their say and to talk all things Arsenal with me, lucky bunch. No, just kidding. We've got lots and lots to get into. We're going to talk about the meltdown that came today off the back of the news that Newcastle are in for Bruno Guimaraes. We're going to be talking about the reports that have surfaced with regards to potential interest from Arsenal in Ruben Neves. We're going to be talking about the latest on William Saliba's future, another striking target that we're being linked with today, plus plenty more. We'll also be taking some of your questions from the live chat. Remember, if you want to feature on our members podcast going forward, become a member. Click on the link in the description, sign up, and at any tier, you'll get access to the Discord server. Once you're in the Discord server, you'll get all the information that you need about our upcoming shows, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to get you all on. Right, joining me today, first up, welcome Sam Tonks. How you doing, mate? Welcome to the show.
All good, thanks for having me. Pleasure, and I wish it was under better circumstances with Arsenal, but there we go.
That's not always possible, though, with Arsenal, and we've come to learn that over the years. Also joining us, Tariq. How you doing, mate? Welcome back.
I'm doing good, thank you, H. Thanks for having me back on. And sorry to those of you watching.
Always a pleasure to have you on, mate. And the Don of South London joins us, the main man, Trev. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, Harry, man. Again, thanks for having us on. I swore I'd never do another show with Tariq, but what the hell?
There you go. No, plenty to get into, guys, and really looking forward to getting your thoughts on some of the subjects on the agenda. Let's start off with the Bruno Guimaraes stuff, because he's a player that Arsenal have been linked with for a while. There's been talk of Arsenal having a long-standing interest in the player that stretches right back to his days in Brazil. He, of course, currently plays his football for Lyon in France. And earlier today, the news broke from a number of reliable sources, including David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano, that he was on his way to Newcastle and that a medical was going to take place. Now, this caused Arsenal fans, as they do, to lose their minds, because he's a player that a lot of us would like to see come to the club. However, Lyon have come out and denied this. They say, and the term is, they categorically deny that a deal has been agreed. Sam, let me bring you in on this first, mate. First of all, where are you on the whole Bruno Guimaraes thing? And what do you think is actually going on with regards to Newcastle and their interest?
I think first off, fair play to Newcastle, because I think they've bidded for 50 odd players this January, so they're bound to get one agreed. So fair play to them. They're making the moves. They need to pay up. They need to spend the money. If Arsenal wanted Guimaraes, it would be clear that we would be getting him, because I'm sure he would rather not risk relegation. And obviously Arsenal have a top four prospect. So that's first of all. If Newcastle have agreed a deal, that means Arsenal have made no effort to sign him yet. So that's first of all. They haven't beaten us to him. They're the only ones in for him out of us two. Second of all, I don't know much about Guimaraes, so I can't come out here and say, oh, we should be getting him, he's a baller. Because I'd have thought, I'm surprised that there's been no movement on Aouar. That seems to have disappeared now out of the two. But yeah, I would say that, I mean, if Arsenal say, our priorities are a striker, so the door's open for Newcastle. But this Lyon, I mean, this whole saga happened with us and Lacazette, didn't it? Their chairman plays hardball. But I would say that if Newcastle have agreed a deal, that means Arsenal are in no way looking to compete unless they're trying to start a bidding war. So, yeah, I think Arsenal fans are losing a meltdown because we've signed no one. But I think Arsenal are looking for, obviously, that striker rather than Bruno.
Tariq, do you think that's the right way to go, given that obviously by the time we next play in the Premier League, Mohamed El Neni will be back, Thomas Partey will be back, Granit Xhaka will be back. would you be focused first and foremost on bringing in a striker?
Do you know what? I had this thought myself in terms of that we do need a central midfielder still, because when we've seen El Nene come in, we know Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka, they're going to be the first choice when it comes to Arsenal midfield, where Arteta's going to pick. However, if one of those picks up an injury or suspension like we've seen, I think we'll be in big trouble, especially with Thomas Partey, because we've seen Sambi Lokonga. For me, myself personally, I've been impressed with him, given his age and the fact that he's just come in. However, I do think that he has a lot of development still to grow. Over the last few weeks, he has improved. He's shown that he can cope with the physicality a lot more and a lot better than he did at the start of the season, in my opinion. Not giving the ball away as much as he did against Liverpool in the first half, in the last game against Burnley. So I do think that central midfielder is still key. And we need someone who is adept enough to come in and help challenge the midfield too. I was talking about this with Wilf, Trev, in the chat, in the Discord, and saying that Thomas Partey and Xhaka don't have anyone to really compete with. So when they drop off in form, we still have to continue to play them. We don't have competition to places to raise the level. And we've seen that in the left-back position in particular this season. I feel like Kieran Tierney in December, not so much in January, but that's more of the team as a whole. He's took his game to the next level because Nuno Tavares has upped his and creating that battle for places has raised his level for me. So I still think that the central midfield spot is important. And I remember in particular under Unai Emery when we had to bring in El Nene for that Crystal Palace game, and it didn't work out. I don't think, unfortunately, we can't be relying on the likes of Lokonga yet and El Nene to be sufficient cover. So I still think it's quite essential to get a central midfielder myself.
Where are you on this, Trev, mate? Because I agree that we need to address the midfield position. Right, there's no doubt about that for me. We don't have enough quality, in my opinion, beyond the starting two. But having said that, we're out of Europe. We're not in any of the cup competitions. So would you, if you were manager and funds were limited, let's say, would you prioritize the centre forward position over everything else?
This is a weird question, because had you asked me this 2 weeks ago, I'd said hands down midfield. No, don't even worry about it. But this is football. How quickly things change. We will have Partey and Xhaka back, so the need for a midfielder isn't as urgent as it was. I myself personally, I would go for a striker, because we are better than we were, 3-4 months ago, with creating chances. Goals are coming from other areas. A striker now would enhance that goal threat, because teams would look at us and go, right, there's a new striker. Let's focus on him, and it eases up the area for the other midfielders, your Smith Rowes, your Sakas, your Odegaards, to score goals. Or they don't concentrate enough on our striker, and it gives him freedom. I would go for a striker. I totally agree with Tariq. And like I said, we were talking about that in the chat. And the need for a midfielder is more to raise Xhaka and Partey's game on a consistent level than it is for what a midfielder would come in and do now. We could wait for in the summer, but I would definitely go for a striker.
Well, if we thought that the Bruno Guimaraes stuff was going to create a meltdown, there was a report that came out from the Press Association a little bit earlier on, which claimed that Arsenal, other than Matt Turner, the US international goalkeeper, were not expecting any more arrivals between now and when the window closes. Now, I don't know that I believe that. You know, if you read it properly, it says, I'm not expecting any arrivals right now, as in now, today, 26th of January. But a lot can change between now and the end of the window. And all that means, in my opinion, is that no progress or significant progress has been made in any of those negotiations. But Sam, surely we're going to do something.
I mean, you'd think that of all the prospects out there, I thought Dominic Calvert-Lewin is sitting there in a club that is heading down, is either hiring this guy Pereira, who has had no success in the last few years wherever he's been, or Lampard, who is clearly unproven in the Prem, to stable a club. So Calvert-Lewin we could get easily. So I'm just wondering why, like, we're going for Vlahovic, who that was the most ambitious move, but why do we think we can get this guy and have no backup? Because all of a sudden, a few days has passed since we knew we weren't going to get him, and now you're like, oh, wow, we're Monday's deadline day. What are we going to do? Like like we said, the midfield options. Why did we send Maitland-Niles out on loan then? It was just the timing was horrendous. When then parties at AFCON, Xhaka, of course, gets sent off, and then all of a sudden we're playing Lokonga basically by himself because Erdegaard goes forward. So, it's the planning at Arsenal. Just when you think Arsenal have shored themselves up, we're a well-run club, summer went well, we're going well, Arteta and Edu working well. Then this month has just deteriorated everyone's view on, like, Edu's getting heat every day. Arteta's flown to America. Mate, if he comes back with just a new deal for himself, honestly, I don't want to go on Twitter after that. If he comes back and all he's done is, I've signed a new deal. Wow. Yeah.
Tariq, let's touch on that because, of course, as was mentioned on yesterday's episode, Mikel Arteta has been spotted in the United States, obviously with the Chronicles. Lots of speculation around what exactly that is with regards to. Is it a new contract for Mikel Arteta, which is rumoured to be close, or is it Mikel Arteta's way, I guess, of pleading for some additional transfer funds in this window? We don't really know. But what we do know is that the club are under pressure. The club are under real pressure to get business done. And I mean, I don't know what you think about this, but I'm very much of the opinion, and I don't mean this to kind of knock people or criticize people, but it might sound that way. And if it does, tough shit. But I feel like some people watch football nowadays and assume that transfer negotiations are like they are on FIFA, where you go into a virtual room, the deal takes 2 minutes, you either accept the asking price or you don't. There's no other factors. It just all feels like people overlook the difficulty of doing some of these deals. No business transaction worth millions of pounds happens overnight. So why do you think fans seem to kind of overlook that and get so angry and agitated when business doesn't move as quickly as they'd like?
I do think you are right when you talk about things like FIFA, Football Manager, and those computer games where you give us like that sort of power, and the realism in those makes us believe that we can do that. And as fans, even I get frustrated when I see certain things. Like, that's your initial reaction. And I think another factor is when you're looking at other clubs, when they're making signings, so like Newcastle, for example. But we have to differentiate that we're in completely different positions. I've got a lot more leniency to Arteta and Edu when it comes to the transfer market and this transfer window. Sam mentioned Ainsley Maitland-Niles. For me, you've mentioned it before, Harry. This was something agreed that's come out, and I'm sure it has been something that was agreed way like in December, where you have to continue that sort of relationship with the player. You have to keep your word. We already kept him in the summer, and then he wasn't getting much game time. Played one game against Watford, I believe, in the league, and then didn't play again after that. So he was going to get moved on. After that as well, what we have to remember is the situation we're in with this striker situation is because of a lack of discipline from our previous club captain. This wasn't a priority for this January transfer window. This was summer business. And the Vlahovic whole deal, apologies I mentioned his name. I know we've heard it a lot as Arsenal fans, but that was summer business brought forward. That's what we were trying to take an opportunity that was there, a big opportunity where we could sign a top talent, and we had the money. We brought the money forward. That's from what all the reports are saying, to make the opportunity. And now we're in this situation where it's so hard to sign top players in a January transfer window. Even when you look at Manchester United, when they brought in Bruno Fernandes, that was summer. That started from the summer. That carried on into January. So a lot of these deals that happen in January are usually summer business from the previous one, and it's getting carried over. Spurs with the Adama Traore, that's another one that's happened. So, and with players that are based in the Premier League, it's even tougher because these Premier League teams do not need the money. A situation like Everton for Calvert-Lewin, they can keep him. All the power's in their court because they have this player on a long-term contract, and they can keep him, and for how much? Unless they have a release clause, and that's for like Alexander Isak, in for Real Sociedad. They want to keep him mid-season. It's so hard to get these types of players. And that's why I've got a little bit more patience when it comes to that. And there is only so much you can do in January.
Yeah, and I think that, look, there's a couple of people in the chat saying that I'm patronising by suggesting this, which is certainly not what I'm doing. Archangel says, "Stop it, Harry. Edu was shooting off his mouth about everything being planned." But do you know what that plan was? You don't, because he never said it. So you don't know whether Edu was planning anything in January. And my opinion is very much of the fact that Arsenal planned last summer's transfer window extensively and weren't planning anything significant in January with a view to adding again this coming summer. However, as the guys have mentioned, certain things have cropped up along the way, injuries, suspensions, obviously the issue with Aubameyang, and all of that has accelerated those plans. So then you've got people saying, well, no, they should have, they should have planned this well ahead of time. Who knew that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was going to go off the wagon the way he did? Who knew that situation was around the corner? I don't think anybody did. I think maybe we got signs when he was late to the North London derby that all wasn't rosy with Aubameyang, and the fact that his form dropped a little bit as well was another indicator that maybe it wasn't all perfect. But this is the point, right? You've got to remember, and Trev, I'll bring you in on this, mate, because we as a fan base have been forever criticizing the ownership and the way they've been almost willing to let the club rot and not take action. And, that sometimes they spend money, every now and again they put their money where their mouth is. But if you don't spend that money wisely and correctly, that's a problem as well. It's just as big a problem, actually. But what's given people the impression, Trev, that Arsenal are no longer running in a self-sustaining way, where after having spent all that money in the summer to bring in all of those players, we were then just going to rip up the old approach and not have to pay for it in January?
I just think that's wishful thinking on the fans. You know what I mean? Because I myself, whenever, having seen spend in the summer, part of me was wishing, let's go out and buy whoever we want. It doesn't work like that. Like you said, there will be a plan. There's a long-term plan. There's a 6 month, a year, 3 years, 5-year plan. And those factors, because we don't know about them as a fan base, we lose our minds because we don't get the player that we want. It's the same with the manager. There's a section of our fans that wanted a different manager to the one we've got now, and they will never stop wanting that manager. So you'll never stop wanting that player. And when you don't get them, and we don't seem to be going after them, everybody loses their grapes. You know what I mean? They toys out the pram, and this is what going on. But the business of football, and as much as we love it, it is a business. I think we've kind of been too safe in. We've gone so far the other way from where we're shooting money at every experienced player out there that we've become too safe. For example, with the striker deal that's just fallen through, the fact that we were only going for that one player and that one player alone, I think was short-sighted, because any of us know that deals can fall through at the last minute, and there should have been maybe 2 or 3 players that we're going for, with number 1, number 2, and number 3. Surely a phone call, us 4 here, if we're on a WhatsApp group, I can say, Tariq, can you phone Harry and see what he feels about this? We've got players in our side that knew Vlahovic and could have got an idea of whether he was at all serious about coming to us. And if he wasn't, early doors, bin that, go on to the next one. I think we messed around with that deal too long, just wishing and hoping and praying and and sacrificing donkeys to the gods in the football gods that this would work out. It hasn't, and we're left further down the line or behind in the race to get the players that we genuinely were interested. Your Isaacs, your Jonathan Davids, even Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It's gotten too late now that we can to go after them. And also, what does it look like to the player? You're coming after me now as second best. It doesn't feel right, so they're not going to want to go. Players like the ones I've just mentioned, other teams are linked with them. They should know before this window comes up, we're after you. Yeah. There's 3 players that we're after. It's you, it's Vlahovic, it's Isak, it's whatever. It's first come, first serve. Yeah, we're a big club, we're Arsenal. We're not just going to go after one player. If you want to come to us, say you want to come to us. Otherwise, this guy's going to. And play it like that. So that they know that we want them. B, that they know, you know what, this is an offer that's once in a lifetime offer, and it will get them thinking. So that it's not a surprise if they come after us, because it would look like, okay, Vlahovic has missed his opportunity to play for us. The door's open for you. Come and do it. Come and be a big boy here.
I think for
my
me,
only
go on, Tariq. Go ahead, mate.
My only thing with that is when with strikers in this window, it's very hard, and it takes a lot of. We saw with the Vlahovic deal that the agreement between the clubs, between Fiorentina and Arsenal, that was there. We agreed on the price, but then the representatives, he went silent there, and even that. It's probably not that Vlahovic didn't want to come to Arsenal. He just probably had his preference and waiting for Juventus. He probably, who knows? We don't know. We can be speculating, and that's what this whole transfer window seems to be about. But it's really difficult to say in the middle of a transfer window, okay, Isak, we're going to get you, because Sociedad aren't willing to negotiate. But because of Vlahovic's contract situation, that's where Fiorentina were willing to do that. And then Calvert-Lewin, they're not going to negotiate during a January transfer window. Summer may be different. I feel even when we look at Lukaku, when he went to Chelsea, that was an opportunity because of Inter Milan's situation, because of their financial situation, because of how they had to recruit some money, and Lukaku wasn't happy at the sale of Hakimi and those things, and Conte leaving. They struggled to even get Haaland in that summer. So it's really hard. The transfer window, it throws up a lot of things, and especially in January, when we brought in Aubameyang, we had a whole triangle. Remember when Batshuayi went to Dortmund on loan, Giroud. So there's only a domino effect that happens. Maybe that will happen towards the end of a window, because we've got Arthur Cabral now, who's gone to Fiorentina, and maybe Juventus will look to get someone like Morata may go to Barcelona, but then. Is the striker there? There isn't many strikers out there, unfortunately, that we need at the level that we require. Sorry.
Just a quick one. Daniel is a big fan of Trev's jumper. Trev, are you a Jameson drinker, or do you just wear their merchandise? Oh, I've got him on mute. Sorry, go on, mate.
Oh, sorry. It's from my bartending days. It's one of my old uniforms from a bartending job I used to do.
There he is, man of many talents. Let me come back to you, Sam, on this, because people think that I always get this right. It's Harry's defending the club. Harry is on Arsenal's payroll. If I had £1 for every time someone said that in the last year, I'd be a millionaire and I'd be retired. I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere. I'm not on the club's payroll. I've just understood what the long-term project is. And while I agree with what Trev said, that you shouldn't put your eggs in one player's basket, because there is a strong chance that a deal could fall through and then you're left with egg on your face. What I would say is you can't just throw 40, 50 million pounds at a player that you're not sure about, because that's what we've been doing for the last decade. That's why we've got the Xhakas, the Mustafis. That's why all those players came in, because we were short of options. We come into a position of panic and we threw big money at these players who we then took years, and in some cases still have them, to then move on. So if the difference between Arsenal signing the striker for the next 4 or 5 seasons is or somebody that we're going to bring in and next year we're not going to like anymore, I think that I'm quite willing to wait. That's the difference. It's not that I don't want Arsenal to bring in a striker. It's not that I'm defending everything they do. I understand the circumstances, the way Arsenal is being operated as a football club, whether we like it or not. That's the reality. And the last thing I want is Arsenal to go make big investments in players that aren't fit for purpose. And if you do then start working your way down the list, like I get you can have 1 striker, 2 strikers, 3 strikers that you really, really fancy. But the lower you go down that list, the bigger the risk is that you're taking. And you shouldn't drop all the way down that list, in my view, just to get somebody in the door now. Is that how you see it, Sam?
Yeah, I think I think especially this season, the pressure's ramped up. Again, like Tariq said, I mean, Aubameyang's really put Arteta in a pickle, because now all of a sudden you're relying on Lacazette, who has never really been a prolific goal scorer. He's a big game goal scorer. Like, his record against the big 6 is pretty good. He always puts in a shift, but he's not a poacher. And Ketia, in the 6-yard box, you can bank on him. He'll probably find the net, but around anywhere outside the 6-yard box, pretty hopeless. And the fact that top 4 has become like almost an open goal for like whoever fancies it. Like, United are a mess. They beat West Ham. Next game they could lose, 3-0 to Burnley. Tottenham, like, not really got anyone. Sort of clearly holes there. Kane's only just come into the fray. You don't know how they're going to do. Arsenal have looked so promising over the last 2 months. Like, we're firing with our young lads. Defense is pretty solid. So I think Arsenal fans are thinking, if the club don't push this summer, this January, when will we get a chance to get top 4? When United get their manager, Conte's had a few months, and Chelsea either sack Tuchel or go again, whatever, and 4th's gone. And then we think, right, Arsenal have missed it. Saka might leave. All of a sudden Arsenal are like, oh crap, all these young players now are going to go to the Champions League, which we're now not in. So I think fans are panicking that we're now in a race to get 4th when we weren't meant to be. Like, we weren't meant to be 4th this year. I think that's safe to say. Everyone wanted 6th, maybe a trophy, FA Cup, Carabao Cup. I would have taken 5th in the Carabao Cup personally this year. But now that's obviously gone. I think everyone's panicking now. If we don't get 4th, what's going to happen? Everyone will want Arteta's head. Will the players leave? So I think that's why everyone's desperate for a striker. And you're right. If you have a top 3, that should be it. You shouldn't be going, what Tottenham did with their managers. They were, Nuno's 17th choice manager, and then look how that panned out. We don't want to get a bloody Diego Costa for free. And then apart from the fact he's ex-Chelsea, we don't want to do that again. He goes for 2 months, he scores 2 goals, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, wow, he's on 200k a week, 36. That wasn't a good deal. So, no, you absolutely should have your top 3, and then that's it. If you don't, then you wait and then see what else pops up. But I think the fact that 4th is there for anyone who can move or get their act together. And if Arsenal don't, people are panicking like, oh, we're going to lose Saka. Martinelli's going to go off to Klopp like he's wanting him. So I think people are stressing because of the prospect of we can get 4th. And obviously, can we get it with this current bunch with Aubameyang now off wherever he's gone? Maybe not. And I think people are worrying what will happen if we don't. But then we weren't meant to get 4th. So is it Arteta's fault? We just weren't prepared for this situation with Aubameyang as well.
Yeah, I don't think and remember at the start of the season when Edu gave that interview and everybody was losing their minds over that, he did everything possible to avoid spelling out exactly what it was that they were aiming for. Not because they don't have an aim. Let's be honest, everybody has an aim, an objective, an ambition, a goal. He did it for this exact reason, because what we didn't want was everybody piling in. The club, whether you like it or not, have decided that this is the way to go, to build all over again. At some point, the squad was always going to be thin because, as I keep going back to the way that we're operating, you have to clear out to make space for new. That's the way it is. We can't stockpile players. We don't have the financial capability to do that. So we were always going to get to this point at some point. But I agree with Sam. The top four is something that we've been almost fooled into believing we're good enough for because of the shortcomings of Tottenham, because of the shortcomings of Manchester United, more so than Arsenal having improved that much. And this is what people seem to overlook. And it drives me crazy because by one token, I've got people coming at me constantly in the chat on social media telling me that this manager's no good. He's a cone layer. He's useless. He's Pep's cone boy, whatever they call him, right? Spanish Tony Pulis, all of that stuff. Okay, we hear it time and time again. Yet, by the other hand, the same people are telling me that we should be finishing in the top four. Well, those two ideas, they clash. They clash. You can't be of the opinion that he's the worst manager since sliced bread, yet he should 100% be taking this team into the top four because the team is not good enough as well. And we've adopted this approach where we're going to go for the long term. We're going to bring in players of a certain age profile with the view to them developing. We're going to develop the ones that we've got. And everybody seems to overlook the good work that we've done in keeping hold of some of those young players that we've got, because so many of them could move away if they want to. They've got that appeal. And we saw it last summer. Emile Smith-Rowe was the subject of interest from Aston Villa. But Arsenal have managed to tie all these guys down to new contracts. So all I'm saying is that we need to be a little bit more patient than we have been. And remember, this is only Mikel's second full season in charge. You can't judge him on what happened in that half season. If you're going to judge him on that, you've got to say he won the FA Cup. Was that entirely his team that won the FA Cup? No, it wasn't. It was a mishmash of Wenger's team and Emery's team that went to that final and won it so brilliantly. But, we just got to be more kind of understanding of the circumstances around us and what they mean on the one hand, but also the actual progress that we're making and the speed at which that's happening. Because I think a lot of people have gotten a little bit too carried away. Tariq, let's in fact, before we come to you, Tariq, if you're listening via the audio platforms, we're going to take a short pause for a message from our sponsor. Right, we are back. Let's get into some more transfer rumors and transfer speculation. And a name that we were heavily linked with over the summer has resurfaced again, and that name is Ruben Neves. I know, Tariq, you're not too far from his stomping ground, are you? But the Wolves man is being linked with a move to Arsenal again. He's a player I was quite happy for us to move for last summer. I thought he was a good fit if we were going to lose Granit Xhaka in terms of the attributes that he had and the position in which he occupies, etc. What's your thoughts on this? First of all, do you think there's any legs in this? And second of all, is he a player you'd welcome?
Unfortunately, no. Because once again, when we're talking in the middle of the season, it's going to be difficult for a team like Wolves, who already have a thin squad. So it's not like they have that ready-made backup who they can bring in already. We know, not being too far from Wolves, and my brother-in-law being a Wolverhampton Wanderers fan, they've been linked with quite a few players who we've been linked with. Renato Sanchez, who was meant to move there in the summer on loan, but that fell through because of an injury, I believe. So with how it is, unfortunately, I don't think he will come. But for me, Ruben Neves, that's the one that I want. When I look at a Premier League, if you want to sign within the Premier League, that's the one. Because what he provides from a midfielder, I've heard people say like, he's similar to Xhaka. Absolutely not. When he plays in that midfield, he dictates the play. He's got the range of passing. He can use both feet, which we can't see from Xhaka. We know about his long-range goals that he hasn't done as much of late. But he's shown a lot already at a young age. He was a captain of Porto in the Champions League at the age of 19. Like, I've been very impressed with this guy, and that's what I think. It's more of a summer move. It could be possible, but that all depends on where we move in the summer. We have to be in the European place, whether it's Champions League or Europa League. We're going to have to be there to get a player like Neves. It'd be more attractive to come to Arsenal in the summer. It's a deal that could probably happen. But yeah, he's definitely an upgrade. And that's the one. I like Bruno Guimaraes, and I was talking about him on my channel at the start of the season, saying that's who we should look for once the Ruben Neves links died down a little bit. However, Neves, if you want a Premier League proven player, there you go, right there. And puts the defensive work box to box, and that's the type of player that will complement Thomas Partey and yeah, if Xhaka is here to stay, then he's got someone that's competing for that position.
Trev, your take on Ruben Neves, and I know we talked about the fact that a central midfielder might not be at the top of Mikel Arteta's list, even if it is at the top of the list of most supporters at the moment. Is he somebody that you'd say is a good fit?
I'd be an idiot to say no. I mean, Tariq's kind of covered pretty much everything there. He's Premier League proven. He's the right age profile. He's dynamic. He's done it consistently for what, 3-4 seasons now, something like that. Yeah, I'd bite your hand, leg, big toe off to take him straight away. Only problem is Wolves are going to see ourselves as rivals because they're only, I think, 1 or 2 places behind us. They're obviously going to have ambitions of making Europe, possibly, you know, if you're that ambitious, making a top 4. Because if we're in that position, and Man United and Villa, and they must be looking at that as well. And he's their main man. So it's going to take either a big bucks move to get him. And I can't see Wolves letting him go. It would be a dumb move on their part. If the roles were reversed, all hell would be breaking loose if we let someone like that go, because he is that good. But God, yeah, I would take him in a heartbeat. Someone like that, I would say top 4. I'd be surprised if we didn't get top 4. I mean, because at the moment we're a victim of our own success, like Tonks and yourself alluded to earlier. Our ambitions at the beginning of the season has drastically changed to where we are now. Everybody's like, top 4. If we don't get top 4, because of how well we. I mean, I disagree with you slightly. We have improved drastically, and other teams around us have dropped the ball. You know what I mean? They your Man United's, them down the road, they should have grasped this opportunity with both hands and be pushing. We should be outside. We should be fighting for 6th and 5th. But because we've been consistent, because we've been good, because the players have improved that much since last season, since the first 3 games of this season, that's what's got everybody going crazy about, you know, who we should get in the transfer market and stuff. But yeah, I would take Neves like that. Without a doubt.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, get some of your questions in the chat box and we'll work our way through as many of those as we possibly can in the next sort of 20 minutes or so. So please do fire them over. Also, if you haven't hit the like button on the live stream yet, what on earth are you waiting for? There are over 450 of you with us live right now across the different platforms, yet we've only got 79 likes on the board. Come on, let's get that up to 150 ASAP. That should be easy. So come on, get involved, help us out, and subscribe to the channel, of course, if you're new. If you're listening via the audio platforms, please do leave us a review, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts, because that really, really does help as well. Right, we'll take some of these questions. We'll just give it a second for some more of them to filter through. But one of the things that keeps coming up in the chat is people kind of labeling sort of my stance as toxic fake positivity. I get people saying to me that toxic fake positive, I don't even know what that is.
I think it's the culture, you know. It's, you know, you got other channels where people are like, they get viral for ranting, and it's popular to hate on people, and people love shouting their mouths off. This guy's this guy's this, sell this guy, sell this guy. You can just be neutral and normal and level-headed, and all of a sudden you're sitting on the fence, you're fake, you're lying. It's just like, not everyone needs to shout their mouth off or call for someone to get sacked or sell them every single week. Like, you just need to chill.
Agreed. And also, one of the things that's great about doing this is that you get to see different opinions and hear different opinions. That's one of the things I really enjoy. But what I want people to do in the chat is, if you've got a different opinion or you disagree with something that I say, let me know why. Put it in the comments. Let me know why. And I will read them out and I will respond to them. I always do. But when you're just sitting there going, Arteta's shit, Harry's this, Harry's that, this person's this, but there's no, you're not adding any value to the conversation. So if you do feel strongly the other way, then please do tell us why, so that we can discuss it. And if you want to become a member, do so, and you can jump on here and have the chat with me. No problem at all. Go on, Trev, mate. You were going to say something.
Just want to, question for you. You're a Gooner, right? Yeah, this is established. You're a Gooner.
I think so.
I think so.
Hey, so
Right.
some people.
So
might
at
say
some
so.
point, at some point, you're going to be supportive of your team. I don't know why people are so up in arms when you say something positive or supportive about the team that you love. Yeah. You criticize, and there's times on here where I thought your criticism wasn't in line with what I thought, but it doesn't mean that you're slating off the team or whatever. There's for the most part, you're looking for the positive. Like every other football supporter on the planet that has ever been, they are looking for something positive from their team. And if you find it and you point it out, that's not being fake. That's not being fake. That's your opinion. And I think people forget that. It's like Tom said, it's that wanting to rant, wanting to show, then do it about something positive. Find something positive. I don't care if you're Norwich, who are playing so bad and all the rest of it. Their fans can find. I've heard their fans find positive things to say about their team. So
They will.
If you truly love,
that's it. They should.
If you truly love
at
the
end of the day, everybody can support their team the way they choose to support them. But one thing I would always say is, football is a wonderful thing that gives us joy. It also gives us pain. But if you prefer to be outraged all the time, if you like that, then is it actually adding value to your life? Like sitting there and spending so much time watching the games, listening to people talk about it, in some instances, pumping your money into it. If it makes you feel that unhappy and you can't see the positives ever, then what is the bloody point? That's what I would say. Let's go over to some of the questions. Go on,
I think they've been watching Spider-Man. Do you know, if you haven't watched it, I'm not going to give you any spoilers.
I haven't seen it. I
won't give you any spoilers. But she says in there, MJ, if you expect disappointment, you won't be disappointed. So
there you go.
That's what their answer is.
It's called managing expectations. That's what I would call it. Matt G, one of our members. Matt, love to have you on soon as well. He says, should Aubameyang...
That's a top comment, man. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant.
Oh, that is class.
Should Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang take career advice from Emmanuel Adebayor? Sam, let me come to you, mate, because that interview baffled me. It baffled me. What was Adebayor trying to achieve? Was it another opportunity for him to take a cheap shot at Arsenal? It just felt like, and also Sky. Why the hell are you asking Emmanuel? Who cares what Emmanuel Adebayor has to say about it?
They know what clicks, don't they? They know that Arsenal have just lost. Or was it? It drew with Burnley. It came after the Burnley game. They know Arsenal fans are all hell breaking loose on social media. Let's get a guy they all hate. And he hates Arsenal, obviously, and let's put it out there. How hypocritical does he sound? He goes, Arsenal aren't able to forgive or something. This is the guy who celebrated and the whole pitch to make his point, then kicked Jack Wilshere at the North London derby and got sent off, then is still talking about Arsenal 15 years later because he flopped when he left Arsenal. We'd made his career. He was one of the best strikers in the league, and he did jack all after that. So, you know what? It's annoying because I loved Adebayor as well. And I'm probably bitter because I got his name on the back of an Arsenal shirt and then he left. So screw Adebayor. Can't stand the bloke, man. Honestly.
Apparently, Newcastle have come in for him and made an offer for him.
He's a bang on Newcastle signing. Remember, he was at Crystal Palace as well. This guy had to go Crystal Palace with Marouane Chamakh. So, screw Adebayor, man.
Good stuff. Let's see what else we've got. We'll take this one because this is an interesting question. Because although I back Mikel Arteta and I support a lot of the work he's doing, I do think he comes across sometimes as having a bit of an ego. I do think that. Love Rami says, where do you think Arteta gets his unfounded ego from? For me, and I'll come to you, Tariq, on this, but for me, I feel like there are some jobs in life where it's you don't have to be egotistic, but you have to be strong and confident in your beliefs. Because if you're not, A, people will walk all over you, and B, you have to, and I know people hate using this word, but you have to trust that your process is the right one. So what's your take on this? And do you think, first of all, that Mikel does have a bit of an ego?
Oh, of course. All the managers, all managers have an ego, every single one, not even the best ones, everyone. Because if you're going to lead a group of people, how are you going to instill confidence if you don't have the confidence within yourself? How are you going to build a team, get a team to perform at their best, have belief that they're going to win football matches if you don't have that? And you don't have, as you said, the trust in your own process to do that. I feel that we know there's a lot of players that really look up to Arteta, whether you like it or not. That's just what it is what it is. Why we're able to sign Martin Odegaard. He enjoys his time at Arsenal and had such a good time. He could have the choice of many clubs after his period. Saka's staying, Emile Smith-Rowe committing his future, Martinelli, etc. So there is that belief in there, and they do believe this man, and 100% he has to have an ego. Nobody criticises Pep Guardiola's ego, or Alex Ferguson's, or Klopp's. We've seen it. Of course they do. They've got to have that belief that they're the best, and to get to the best, that's what you need to do. You need to believe it, whether you're there or not. Whatever your thoughts on Mikel Arteta is, to get to that level, that's what you have to fully believe it. It's like you've got to believe in what you're saying, otherwise people will come and listen to you. So you've got to have that, that little bit of confidence and say, yeah, I believe this. This is what my opinion is, and I'll give you the reasons. I'll listen to others, and we know that Arteta has done that because he's given the likes. He gave Ozil. I was talking about the Ozil situation in terms of why Aubameyang won't come back. And that Ozil situation, giving opportunities to these likes, Matteo Guendouzi once again, but no, there's a line that you cross, and yeah, as you said, people take the mick for him if he doesn't have one.
Trev, what about you, mate, on this whole ego thing? You're like me. You're a bit older than these two guys, I think. I'm sure I'm older than both of you.
Just a bit.
Trev,
I'm 16.
You must have experienced all types of characters. So, what do you is there a difference between confidence and ego, and how do you identify what's what?
There's a very thin line between confidence and ego. Every great person, whether potential or greatness, and I don't care if it's politics, whether you're I don't know, whatever line of work you're in, without that ego, that's what drives you. I want my manager to have an ego. Alex Ferguson, like Tariq said, Alex Ferguson had an ego. Wenger had an ego. Pep has an ego, and that ego didn't start when they won stuff. It was there from when they were in academies, when they were at school. That belief in that ego has to be there if you're going to be successful. And whether he fulfills it or not, I think Arteta has the potential to be a great manager because of what I've witnessed with what he's been through in the 2.5 years he's been asked and who he's worked under. He has the potential. Whether he fulfills that, it's another totally different matter. But yeah, I've seen Messi, Ronaldo, Pepe has an ego. As to whether you live up to it or not, that's a totally different matter. But to be successful in any walk of life, in any area, you have to have an ego. You have to have. Some people call it confidence. Some people call it arrogance. Some people call it ego. Whatever you want to call it, it has to be there. Otherwise, it's impossible to be successful. It just is. I mean, Yeah, go ahead.
Trev, just going to ask you, mate, to just log out and back in again because your audio's cutting up a little bit. So just drop out and drop straight back in, and we'll bring you straight back in.
Cool.
What else have we got? Let's do a bit of a quick fire one on this because I want to get through as many of questions as we possibly can before we finish up. Sam, who would be your number one striker to sign now that Vlahovic is gone?
I think Calvert-Lewin. I think he's a poacher. I think he'd thrive brilliantly under with the creators, and Ancelotti made him look like Inzaghi. So go with Calvert-Lewin.
Tariq, how about you, mate?
Gianluca Scamacca, but that's not been linked. And he's Italian, and they don't usually tend to leave the league. But quickly, that's so difficult. Jonathan David, but it's not going to happen. So I'll wait until the summer.
Yeah, I'm starting to lean towards the Alexander Isak hype.
I love Isak as well. I love Isak.
I've got to be honest, man. I'm starting to lean towards that bit of hype as well. But I'm always wary of that transition from league to league. And I get that's why a lot of people feel that Calvert-Lewin is the right man. The thing that puts me slightly off of Calvert-Lewin is I'm not sure that his ceiling is as high as some of these guys. And if I'm going to be consistent in the way I think we should be moving forward, then I think a lot of the signings we've made in recent times have been, and this is why I think that we do have a very specific approach, is players who we're paying for what they might be or could be as opposed to what they are today. And I'm not sure how much more Calvert-Lewin has in his locker. Like I think he's good, but I don't know if he can go to that top level. Trev, what about you, mate? Who would be your preferred striking option now that Vlahovic is obviously not available?
Jonathan David. Just because of Moss, and I've watched quite a few Canadian games. Jonathan David. For me, he has everything that we could need. He's powerful. He's fast. He's strong. He's starving hungry for success to prove himself. He is the age profile. He would slot straight into our side, give us a lift. He would scare the hell out of any centre-back. I don't care who they are in this league. And he's an unknown property. And he's done it at an international level. Without hands down, he's the first name I'd put on my team sheet to get. I would have put him before Vlahovic, to be perfectly honest.
Good stuff. Steve Stone says, how do you think George Graham would have managed some of our divas we have had in our dressing room for the last few years? I think George Graham would have managed them in a very similar way to Mikel Arteta. And you know, we've been lucky enough to have Kevin Campbell on the show on numerous occasions, and he often talks about the man management side and the ruthless side of George Graham and how he would deal with that kind of thing and that kind of issue. So, and this is the thing, it's kind of a sign of how the times have changed, right? When George Graham used to do it, or Sir Alex Ferguson used to do it, it was strong management. It was the way to go. It was the way to stamp your authority. And now we're in this era where player power just appears to dominate everything. And people are almost afraid of managers or wary of managers that can be that strong. I think the only way to truly fix the culture at Arsenal, and it has been a problem for a number of seasons, is to weed out those players. The players, you know, are humans. They will make mistakes, as we've seen with a number of them. But I look a lot more into how they bounce back from that mistake. And that's why, even though he gets a lot of stick, I always back up Granit Xhaka because of what happened. The character that he showed to kind of turn that around, and then probably off the back of that have his best spell in an Arsenal shirt. Okay, people will say it's still not up to the level required, but to see him become such an important part of the team again after that, I think for me is a testament to the man's character. And I think character in football is an undervalued quality. You need character in the difficult moments. All the great teams have it. And although technically sometimes some of these players have been lacking, I think the fact that we're obviously very big on a certain type of character bodes well for the future. Sam, how much value do you place on the character of an individual when obviously looking to recruit?
Oh, massive! I think that was clear by the end of Wenger Emery. Look at the meltdowns and the horrible defeats and nights we had because of the squad was just full of bottle jobs, full of people who would hide behind Wenger, who took way too much stick for shocking the Bayern games. You know, the cup final at City where we laboured. Emery. I think Emery's methods clearly didn't come across in the way Arteta's has. His man management wasn't there because, you know, how you can tell is Emery isolated Ozil and the squad didn't rise up to Emery. They almost sided with Ozil. Arteta has isolated Aubameyang, and all of a sudden Arsenal played their best run of the season as soon as Aubameyang left. I think we had Southampton won, battered West Ham, Leeds, Norwich, superb against City. That's all you need to see about the squad and what Arteta. They clearly respect him. And like you said with George Graham with the Divas, like this squad is the most likable squad we have had for ages. Like the starting 11, I think you could say we like all of them. The new signings, they're all good characters. Even as far as the youngsters coming through, you know, they're doing well in the under 23s. Patino, nice players. So I think they've done well to sieve out these players. Even Kolasinac, like, you know, he wasn't up to the level, but he's clearly a good guy. Clearly, like, respected the contract and all that. So I think they have done a good job in turning the mentality of a lot of the players, but obviously there are still a few. And this, until we have sustained success, that Arsenal mentality will still be in the back of their heads. But characters, 100%, like Ben White, characters like Ramsdale is what we need at a club like Arsenal to turn it around.
Absolutely. Guys, don't forget to hit the like button because we're coming towards the end of the show. We've only got 130 on the board. Let's get that additional 20 and get up to that 150 target. It would be very, very much appreciated. Here we go. Navarre says, Harry definitely works for Arsenal. Character does not equal skill. I didn't say it did. But listen, what I want everybody in the chat to do who thinks I work for Arsenal, send them an email and ask them to pay me something on a monthly basis, because I might as well get paid for it, right? Seeing as I supposedly work for them. Darren Sullivan says, yeah, Xhaka's really learned his lesson being a serial red card merchant. Must have bags of character. Again, that's not the same thing.
That's
right?
just his football brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can't, and that was the point I made. It doesn't equal ability. It equals character is character, right? You bounce back from difficult situations. It's not about his ability. We know he can't tackle for shit. You know, that's been evident from the day he arrived at the place. And I think if you did your research, you'd have known that was an issue for him even prior to him joining Arsenal Football Club as well. Ahmet says, if we have such a huge problem in the midfield, why don't we recall Guendouzi? It's not as simple as that, Ahmet. There is a clause in place that means that Marseille, as long as certain triggers are met, which they're going to be met, can sign him on a permanent deal. So it's not as simple as that. That wasn't part of the deal. It wasn't part of the contract. Not every loan gives you the option to recall a player.
Can I add Pereira to that as well? Can I?
Yeah.
Have I missed something? Like, what did he do? Like, why is he like gone? Because he joined, was really good for like most of the season, and you just haven't seen him since. Like, has he fallen out, or like he didn't seem like an ego or a bad character? So I'm lost as to what happened to Lucas Torreira.
I think it's more stylistically that, but you go on, H.
No, go ahead, mate. Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's more stylistically when it is for Arteta and what he wants from his central midfielder. Yeah, he has some of the attributes in terms of how he presses up high, but I think the physicality factor is quite big when we look in the Premier League. Like Kante, people compare him to Kante a lot, but people need to understand that Kante is in a league of his own in terms of energy and buzzing around. Like, in the midfield, you do need that, and you can't really budge Kante off the ball either because he's very adept at dribbling, progressing the ball in those ways. Torreira just isn't that, and yeah, I think that's a minus in his game, really, and that's probably why Arteta looked to me well. But what was you going to say, Harry?
No, let me bring Trevor in. Trevor was going to say something there.
Oh, yeah. Also, I think it had a lot to do with him and his family didn't settle in London. He seems too homesick. The culture was very different for him. He just and which you get. I mean, sometimes it's not for football reasons. he didn't. It's quite common knowledge that he didn't like it here. He didn't feel settled. The culture just didn't sit right with him and his family.
That's fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on a second. Where was it? There was a comment I wanted to just bring up. Ahmet said that a journalist said we have a clause where we can recall Guendouzi and he isn't returning because of Marseille's transfer ban. Either way, the way the deal was explained at the time it happened, there was no clause in there. However, I'm not saying that I'm an insider or that I have any information, but what I would say is, Ahmet, just because a journalist said it, it doesn't mean anything. I could say something and it doesn't mean that it carries weight. Not everybody's in the know. Some people go on, mate.
Hey, according to what the team in the chat, you work for Arsenal, so haven't you got Chronicles online? You can't even score.
Yeah, I've got my speed dial.
Harry's not broken the Haaland news yet. That's what it is. Harry's not broken the Haaland news yet.
Okay, yeah, right.
No, but generally speaking, though, and Sam works in the industry as well. You'll know this, Sam. Sometimes people take stabs in the dark. Sometimes people take stabs at stories because they've done some maths in the background, i.e., this player wants to go here, this club are after a midfielder. Some people do that. They take stabs at stuff, and it's a well-known thing within the business in the hope that it would come to fruition. And if it does, they've hit the jackpot and they're in the know and everybody loves them and everybody wants to listen to them. A lot of people get a lot of things wrong, and that's not because they're intentionally doing that in a lot of cases. It's because the information they got was no good. A journalist is only as good as the information they've got, and it's as simple as that. So, just that's all I'm saying. There's a lot of people out there that put stuff out, and that's why you have to take everything with a pinch of salt. And that's why I keep banging on about not overreacting to certain stories until we know categorically that they're true. But anyway, we're going to wrap it up because we've been going for over an hour. My huge thanks, first of all, to Sam. Thank you so much, mate.
Pleasure. Great being on, lads.
Thank you to Tariq.
Pleasure, man. Thank you so much, H.
And thanks to Trev as well, the Don of South London. We got him on the podcast.
Always a pleasure, Always a pleasure, Harry. Thank you, Adam.
No, great to have you guys. And thank you to everybody who's joined us in the live chat as well. Thank you to everybody who will be watching or listening to this back later on. But a special thank you, as I will always do on the members podcast, to our members, because you guys' support gives me the ability as a freelancer, as I always say, to spend more time on the Chronicles of a Gooner than I would be able to otherwise. So thank you all so much. It is really, really appreciated. We'll be back very, very soon with more. And remember, if you want to join our members podcast, become a member. Check it out. The link is in the description. We'll be back very soon. Until next time. Goodbye.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.